Now that we know how to solve one-step equations, today we're going to look at solving two-step equations. So when we're talking about two-step equations, that means we're going to have some addition and subtraction as well as multiplication and division happening at the same time. So in general, our basic rule says that one, we want to undo any addition and subtraction first. So the first thing we're going to do is see if there's any addition and subtraction, and we'll undo that. And then our second step is that we will undo any multiplication and division. Now this works every time unless there is a large fraction. Okay, and what I mean by that is if we have a fraction bar that has multiple things sitting on the top. Right, so this doesn't just have a number on top, but instead it has a number and the variable, right? If it has multiple things sitting on top, then we have this sort of large fraction thing happening. If we have a large fraction, then we're gonna do this in the opposite order. So then we'll undo multiplication and division, and then we will undo addition and subtraction. Okay, so if we look at some examples here, our very basic would be something like 2x plus 6 equals 20. We still want to go back to those basic steps that if we see a variable, we're going to identify it. That is the side of the equal sign we want to focus on. So we are going to ignore everything else. If that means you need to take a Post-it and cover up the other side of the equal sign, that's fine. Whatever you need to do to keep those two sides separate. Right? So if we look over here, we're going to ask ourselves, do we see any addition or subtraction happening? Okay, and right here, right, we have this 6 being added. If we read this to ourselves, it says 2x plus 6, right? So this 2 is attached with multiplication, and this 6 is attached with addition and subtraction. So that's what we're going to get rid of first, right? And just like we said with one step, we will undo addition with subtraction, and whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we are also going to have to do on the other side of the equal sign. Okay, those will still cancel. We'll take 20 minus 6, which will give us 14. The difference is that now we don't just have the variable left, we have all of this 2x left. So we're going to bring all of that down. All of the leftover stuff is getting included in this final line right here. Okay, and then we'll be left with a one-step equation that looks just like what we saw last week. So now we'll be able to undo our multiplication with division. Those will cancel. And we will get an answer of x equals 7. Now, we can still have things with like two operations. So maybe we have something like 3x minus negative 4 equals 15. Okay, we said with one-step equations, if we saw two operations, right, we said two negatives made a positive. We always said if these were the same sign, they turned into addition. So we could rewrite this as 3x plus 4 equals 15. And then again, we can solve it just like we did above. So we'll look to see if we have any addition or subtraction happening, which we do. So we'll undo addition with subtraction. And then we will undo our multiplication with division. Now, don't let this fraction freak you out, right? We've said this in class multiple times, but we don't care what form our answer's in as long as it is an approximation. So in this situation, we don't want a decimal because it's repeating, but as long as it's reduced, 11 over 3 is a fine answer. Okay, sometimes we will just get fraction answers and that's okay. Okay, maybe we have something that's happening on the other side of the equal sign. Okay, like 14 equals 3 plus w over 2. Okay, again, we're going to find our variable. And right, we're ignoring everything that's happening on the other side of the equal sign. So all of those other numbers we don't want to touch. Anything that we cover up, we're ignoring. Okay, we need to decide how these two numbers are each attached. So this says, right, w divided by 2. So this 2 is attached with division, and this says 3 plus, so this 3 is attached with addition and subtraction. Now, how this is set up can be a little bit deceiving because while this 3 is attached with addition and subtraction, this sign isn't necessarily the sign we want to use to move it. Okay, whenever we are undoing something with addition and subtraction, what we're really truly doing is looking in front of the number. So that's actually what we were doing on all of these over here. It's just that the number fell intuitively right in front of it, right? It was the one that we just saw. It was super simple. Okay, now that we're on the back side of this and we're looking here, this is attached in the other format, which means we still want to look in front of it. We just don't see a sign here. So we need to decide if this 3 is positive or negative. Okay, and this 3 is positive, right? No sign means positive. There'd be a negative there if it was negative. And an addition sign is the same as a positive. So same thing with a negative sign is the same thing as subtraction. So if we decide that this is a positive 3, that's the sign that we need to use to decide our inverse operation, right? So this is a positive 3. We'll undo that with a negative or with subtraction. Okay, those will cancel. Now this still says a positive W over 2, but we don't need to write down a positive sign. Okay, so now we're going to move our 2. We undo division with multiplication. And so we'll get W equals 22. Okay, now the last situation that we can look at is what happens if we have that large fraction. So maybe if we have something like y minus 4 over 6 equals 5. Okay, right? This is the situation where we have multiple things sitting on top of our division sign. And we said if that was the case, then we wanted to undo multiplication and division first. So this fraction bar here still means division, right? So we need to get rid of this 6 first because it's encompassing everything. Everything is being divided by 6. Okay, so I'm going to still identify my variable. Okay, I'm going to undo my division first. So I'm going to undo division with multiplication. Now, even though there's more stuff happening over here, these two things still just cancel each other out. Okay, over here we'll get 5 times 6, which is 30. And we will bring down anything that we did not cross off. So the only thing we didn't cross off was y minus 4. Again, we're left with a one-step equation. So we'll undo subtraction with addition. And we'll get y equals 34. So I want you to go ahead and complete the worksheet with two-step equations, and then when you're done, watch the short video that has the answers to make sure you're doing them correctly.